Asakusa 終点前
Give me that photographer face.
Maximum mouth breather.
Hi, I'm Jeremy. I live in Japan and I take photos. In this video, we'll be seeing what Asakusa looks like on CineStill 800T 35mm negative film. Let's go. Asakusa is one of the older downtown city centers of Tokyo, commonly referred to as Shitamachi. Many of the businesses there date back decades, a few even centuries. Asakusa is a cool place, but it's also a very, very crowded one. I remember going there during my first week in Tokyo, among other places. But we don't need to talk about that. Anyways, I haven't often made my way to the east side of Tokyo since. However, I've had several rolls of CineStill 800T just sitting in my fridge, waiting to be used. So I thought, hey, I've hardly ever been to Asakusa at night, so why not? Joining me for this afternoon of shooting would be my friend and business partner, Hai, the most industrious, diligent, and efficient German in the country, perhaps the world. I had with me my trusty old Canon AE-1 and 4 lenses, one of which is kind of broken. And of course, one roll of CineStill 800T. So, armed with my AE-1 and this twisted camera strap that Hai failed to point out, it was time to descend into the dusty, oily, fluorescent depths of Asakusa Chikagai. After taking a quick photo, of course. So that was the first shot of the roll. A photo of, well, nothing really. For starters, I would have liked a wider focal length for more dramatic leading lines, or better yet, a stronger point of interest, like some sort of pattern, or someone coming up the stairs. But whatever. Some other guy on YouTube says the first shot of the roll is pretty much always crap. So let's get back to it. It's hard to do wrong when the location is so cool. The DVD store had everything from Leon the Professional to the silent sci-fi epic Metropolis, as well as Ozu and Kurosawa. And some stuff I can't show or talk about in this video. It also may have more dust than DVDs. Love the colors and lighting here. This record store had a ton of vinyl. Most of it obscure artists you've probably never heard of. Not exactly a banger, but I think it works. Why, you probably just said aloud? Well, our subject, little more than a silhouette, is facing away from the camera, while the background is filled with familiar faces seemingly peering at both him and the lens. One shot, 2 good photos. Hey, it's bound to happen sometimes. Now, we went to Asakusa on a Wednesday afternoon, and, somewhat ironically, maybe a third of the businesses in the Chikagai are not open on Wednesday. So, I also may or may not have returned the following weekend to grab some more interesting footage and have a quick drink.
Stop. Violation of manners. I can get down with that.
Do you like when people violate manners?
This could have been cool, I think, if I didn't completely mess it up. I think that cropping it fixes it somewhat, but that doesn't change the fact that it's out of focus and not as well composed as it might have been. The coolest, most photogenic place down here is Drive-In DenDen. This place has retro games, iconic figures, neon lights, and loud, proud, unadulterated kitsch. Overall, I like this composition. There's a pretty good sense of symmetry, but I think I'd like to try again with a tripod. and from a lower angle for a greater sense of drama. But in the moment, I liked the large cracked tiles and puddles of water. There was a lineup of DJs or something for the day, and when we got down there, they were quite literally blasting J-rock and idol music, rendering the audio for this footage mostly unusable. It was a little loud for my tastes, but I seemed to be having a good time. Anyways, this didn't turn out. I don't think the guy's back being in the doorway looks good, nor does it help tell any sort of story. It's a visual obstruction. Either the doorway should have been empty, or maybe the guy could have been facing out towards the hallway, or better yet, lounging on one of the chairs outside. I actually took a similar photo a few weeks prior to this, which is what sparked the idea of bringing a roll of 800T here. Shot on Kodak Portra 400 with a slightly tighter focal length, there's no pointless backside crowding up the doorway, and the arrangement of objects outside are more visually pleasing. Furthermore, as cool as CineStill's gnarly blue and green tones can be, the broader range of colors in the Portra 400 shot really serve to highlight how colorful the shop's decor is. Just past Drive-In DenDen and the unopened Ninja Bar, the underground street terminated in a bland, unceremonious fashion. It was almost creepy, like some sort of window into the back rooms. As such, I was expecting these shots to be a bit more eerie and moody. Sometimes photos just don't work. So I didn't mention it earlier, but I actually had another camera on me. Something a bit smaller, simpler, and dare I say, sexier. Enter the Canon Autoboy 2, a camera 6 years older than I am, and one with a pleasantly retro design. It also happens to be the noisiest camera in the world. I mean, damn, this thing sounds like it's dying a brutal, grisly death, and it's trying to take the film inside with it. I guess I can use it for photography as well as maybe making a noise album. Or not. I then snapped a couple with my 50mm as I hadn't used it yet. And while I like the look, the shots are, you know, whatever. Anyways, Hai and I had spent the better part of an hour down there, and the absence of fresh air and natural light, as well as the demonic cacophony of the Autoboy 2, were starting to make us hallucinate. I decided to try for one last photo on the AE-1 before heading up, and got this. A reverse angle of the first shot down here, which maybe works a bit better due to the human element, showing life and leisure amidst the dingy surroundings. It also works as a vertical composition, I think. And with that, it was time to get our butts above ground in time for Blue Hour. Fresh air and exhaust fumes.
Give me that photographer face.
Maximum mouth breather.
But like, why do I make that face when taking photos? Do we all do it? $800T was made for Blue Hour. It should really be called 800B.
I think we might want to get even closer.
Another one?
At a 135.
Hold on.
So the latest addition to my FD lens collection is the 135mm f2.5, the longest lens I currently own across any camera system.
Do I wind it? No.
Not sure why I look disappointed here. It's a good shot, maybe one of my favorites of the day. Blue Hour was more or less at an end as we set foot on Nakamise, the iconic shopping street that stretches a quarter of a kilometer to Asakusa's main draw, Senso-ji. As I mentioned at the start of the video, Asakusa is very crowded, and I'm not a big fan of crowds, at all. As for photography, I've always mainly been more interested in shooting quiet or empty places, like rural shrines, nature, and that sort of stuff. As such, if there are going to be more than a few people in my photos, I prefer them to be more of a texture than a distraction. In this way, several hundred people are a lot better than a mere dozen. And in that way, Asakusa's Nakamise is awesome. You just have to make sure you're not in the way or getting elbowed while you try to find your composition. Luckily, the crowds gradually start to thin by nightfall, as one by one the shops close up. Compositionally, not quite there. This really should have been a photo of an interaction with a customer or something. It also should have been in focus. Whatever. It's not like CineStill is absurdly expensive or anything. This is one of those times that I wish there would have been more people in the frame to better help draw the eye in by providing more dark negative space via the overlapping silhouettes, contrasting against the brightly colored solitary statue above. We took our time making our way down the crowded street, behaving with the mature, quiet dignity that one can expect from two gentlemen in their mid-30s. By now, anyone still watching is probably wondering why I, someone who apparently cannot shoot worth shit, is spending way too much on film and making videos about photography. Well, I don't know if it's the same with everyone else, but I honestly think that whether I'm shooting analog or digital, only 10% or so of my photos end up being decent. In this case, there was a person, a silhouette, standing under the canopy a moment before I took the photo. But of course, they moved just as I found my composition and set my aperture. The result? This nothing photo that looks like it's from a location scout instead of a photography portfolio.
One shot left, I think. Actually, though I did manage to squeeze, I think, 38 photos out of the last roll, but I don't think I got that with this one.
This is where I found myself truly regretting not having a tripod with me. I had one shot left, and I knew what I wanted to use it on.
What you try to shoot?
I want to shoot that tower, like that post that says Hanayashiki. Yeah, like if I go down to 1/4 of a second. So there's just no way that I'm gonna... There's no way it's gonna be in focus. You know, maybe I'll just try it. Like, why the hell not, right?
Because film is expensive, that's why. But fear not, dear viewer, because I had a secret weapon up my sleeve.
Maximum photographer face. Oh, I don't mind. Hear how slow that was. Oh my.
So first and foremost, my 135mm lens is long enough that any subtle movement is amplified when finding focus and pressing the shutter. Second, I couldn't really see what aperture the AE-1 was recommending due to how dark the scene was. I didn't even realize that I had some treetop in frame. Oh well, my wife said the resulting motion blur was cool, artsy or something. Her pity is appreciated.
Do I have another shot in here is the question. It kind of made me think that I do, that feeling against my phone, you know? Nope, that's it. It is done.
Last shot?
How was the last shot?
Alright.
This is the fun part. And then I always do this just in case I f it up. Alright, all good. Because I've definitely done that once or twice.
The roll of CineStill 800T was finished. It was just before 6 p.m.
Yeah, let's get a bite.
And Hai and I were hungry. It was time to grab some of Asakusa's finest. We exited Senso-ji and made our way down the Nishi-Sando shopping street, where virtually everything was closed. So we took a small detour and ended up on a road called Okuyama Omairi Machi, where, once again, everything was closed. Later, on our way back to the station, we realized we missed out on Hoppy Street, where not everything was closed. Here, I found myself desperately wishing I had brought another roll of 800T.
Squeeze in here.
Once inside, we were informed that as we had arrived just minutes before 6 p.m., we were still able to take advantage of happy hour, which meant a discount on monjayaki. Unfortunately, neither of us is all that fond of monjayaki, and we were itching for its cooler Kansai cousin, Okonomiyaki.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Cheers. Let's get it.
Cheers to an afternoon well spent.
Dish up my food, bitch.
Just wanted to say that.
Yeah.
Good weather, good locations, good food, good company, and I hope, good photos. And that was that. I made a quick exit, leaving Hai with the bill. I could end this video reflecting on how rarely I've given myself the chance to appreciate a neighborhood like Asakusa. I could wax poetic about living life to its fullest and not taking things for granted. Or I could save that for another time and instead review the day's shots. Of the 37 photos taken on an apparently 36 exposure roll, 12 fall into the category of junk or duplicates. 14 are, I don't know, whatever. And 11 I like to varying degrees. Coming from a predominantly digital background, those numbers aren't bad. When I look at how much CineStill 800T costs at my local camera shop and at bnh.com, well, the numbers don't seem quite as good. Ah well, live and learn. I hope I'm learning. This has been Asakusa on CineStill 800T. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. It was time to grab some grub. Talking to the camera's weird.